and welcome to the 18th edition of Brighton Lights. Coming up in this week's show, fireworks in Lewes.
It's always nice to see children with flaming torches, I find.
Mad Matt Whistler traps Paul Zennon in a lift. Dan Tester says that the seagulls are flying.
Yeah, it was really good, really good.
Jez Eaton celebrates Paul Kemp's amazing club Subterfuge. And Robert Cohen meets Shoreham artist Katie Solahub.
For me, painting didn't answer the questions that I was asking myself.
Plus more of what's on.
Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang.
When you think of fireworks displays, you think London, Moscow, Paris, Sydney. Well, did you know the biggest bonfire night bash is in Lewes? We sent Mark Allen and his sparkling wit to Lewes. Fire! Da, da, da.
I've never been that excited about bonfire night before. Usually only involves eating tragic sausages and feigning enthusiasm for writing your name in the air with a sparkler. Woohoo! That was until I went to Lewes bonfire. I think it's fair to say the people of Lewes do things a bit differently. They've taken the traditional idea of November the 5th celebrations and they have run with it. The original Lewes bonfires were always pretty boisterous affairs, really. So much so that in 1847, police were drafted in from London to keep the peace. Fast forward 160 years, not that much has changed. That's why none of the latest TV cameramen wanted to come with me tonight, so I'm on my own, and hopefully I'm going to get close to the action. I'm not a madman, I've got my Lewes bonfire survival kit, I've got a hip flask, I've got earplugs, and I've also got safety goggles. So, armed with just my trusty handy cam, I'm going to get close to the action and let you know what it's like. The main focal point of the celebrations is this grand procession. This is where members of each of the 7 Lewes bonfire societies wear fancy dress. Some Red Indians there, man in a highwayman's outfit. I have no idea what she's dressed as. Not sure she does, to be honest. Oh, and people dressed as Where's Wally. As the procession winds its way through the town, people line the narrow streets to take the carnival atmosphere in. You've got music and dancing, even the occasional Minotaur. Just as important as the procession, of course, are the infamous effigies created to satirise people or events that have recently annoyed the various bonfire societies. This effigy was inspired by recent hospital closures. This is Barack Obama in his response to the BP oil crisis. That's Nick Clegg being fired out of a massive Tory cannon. Matt Whistler. Slightly more surprising were effigies of a totem pole, a Dalek, and for some reason, Donald Duck. Take that, Walt Disney. Although there have been attempts to try and rein these celebrations in over the years, they don't seem to have had that much impact. This proud tradition continues to remain defiantly free from such trivialities as health and safety, political correctness, my word, and sometimes even basic common sense. These Morris dancers clearly forgotten their handkerchiefs. Still going on though. Smash it. And it's that which makes Lewes bonfire night such an amazing spectacle. It's like a bizarrely refreshing glimpse into a totally different world. I think that must be why tens of thousands of people come from miles around every year to see what all the fuss is about. I think it's fair to say that although it's not for the faint-hearted, it's worth braving the crowds for. Anything that mixes a strong sense of community spirit with fancy dress and a cavalier attitude towards explosives is an absolute winner in my books. I don't think I'll ever be able to go back to a normal bonfire night again. Sausage.
Fatboy Slim, Carl Cox, Paul Kemp's Subterfuge, some of you may remember, and some of you may have recovered. Jez Eaton reports.
What made you do this? What made you bring Subterfuge back from the grave?
Long story, but actually Sean Chapman. My last memory of Subterfuge actually performing there, and I had a massive beehive and PVC, and Sean was Marilyn, and we did Ripper to Shreds Blondie, and then we did Leader of the Pack on stage.
It gave everybody an identity.
It was my favourite ever club night.
When I was 15 years old, I used to sneak out the house and go to Subterfuge, which was at the bottom of Preston Street, which was the West Beach Hotel. It was 50 pence to get in, and it was 50p for a drink.
Were you at the original Subterfuge back then in the 80s?
Well, I've heard these ridiculous rumours that there was some kind of life in Brighton before we arrived. I mean, I refuse to believe it myself.
What's it like to be back here now, 25 years later, doing a revival? What's that like?
It's mixed emotions. It's like loads of people I haven't seen for years.
It's fantastic. I'm really enjoying myself.
It's brilliant.
And the fact of the matter is, it's about enjoying something. It's not really about being cool.
Are we doing another one is the big question.
Do you know what? If you come back, absolutely.
I love you. I love you. I love you too.
There you go.
Cheers, love.
Hang on a minute. Aren't you that Andrew Kay bloke from The Latest?
Yeah, that's right.
Tell me, Andrew, what's going on this week?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Stephanie Beecham in Masterclass at Chichester.
Isn't she the lady who was in Dynasty?
She was in Coronation Street recently as well, yeah. She's really good, and the play's all about Maria Callas. And I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to go to that. I'll see you there.
Good.
What else is going on?
Week after, in Brighton, we've got Calendar Girls, which is the play about the Women's Institute ladies who did the naked calendar. That's starring Linda Bellingham and the lovely Ruth Maddock, who was in Heidi High.
Heidi Ho.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello, you got the Ying Tong song by the Goons?
I think we might have. I can have a look for you. Hang on a minute. Aren't you that Vicky Nangle from The Latest?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me, what's going on for comedy this week?
There's some fantastic stuff this week. There's Charity Chuckle on Tuesday. That's got Zoe Lyons headlining, and it's a fundraiser for local charity Amaze, and there's loads of excellent local support as well.
I think I've heard about that. Isn't that going to be happening right here at The Latest?
It is indeed, and it's going to be so intimate, and it's only £6, so it's really worth it.
There you go.
That's not what I ordered.
Isn't it?
No.
Hang on. Aren't you that Zara Baker from The Latest?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, tell me what's going on this week.
Oh, we got Simi City going on down at Duke of York's Picture House.
Isn't that festival for films?
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, I've heard about that.
You know the King's Speech starring Colin Firth, hotly tipped for the Oscars?
Yeah.
That's their opening night film.
You've seen our resident Matt Whistler many times on this show. His latest idea is to entice people into lifts with him. And I wonder how he got on with Paul Zenon.
Paul Zenon, Matt Whistler.
How do?
Are you claustrophobic?
I am at the moment.
What's your favourite joke?
One goes into the doctor's. He said, I feel really ill. The doctor said, well, you've got to stop playing with yourself. So the man says, why is that? He said, because I'm trying to examine you.
Are you first aid qualified?
Not technically. She was 82, at a bus stop, and had a drink. The case comes up next week. I don't want to talk about it.
What's your funniest blunder?
Agreeing to do this.
Can you do mouth to mouth?
Maybe take me out to dinner first.
Ever tried eating a snake?
Nope, tried wearing one. Didn't like it.
What was your last caper?
Edinburgh Festival last month, 50 shows.
What's your next caper?
They buy a house. Apparently there's a lot of trickery and deception involved in that.
Do you think we'll get out of this alive?
I think one of us probably will.
Shoreham. It's got its own airport, beach, boat village, and it's also got its own brilliant artist, Katie Solahub. Robert Cohen gets inside her head and gives us the exclusive.
Van Gogh had Arles, Canaletto had Venice, I can't think of any other examples, but the point is certain artists associate themselves with certain places. In the case of Katie Solahub, it's Shoreham. What's the big deal about Shoreham?
Probably the light, actually, as all artists say. My recent work has always started with my immediate surroundings, so whether it's looking out the window at Shoreham at the view, or whether it's the objects in my studio, anything that is just right in front of me, sometimes my own self-portrait. More recently, I've allowed myself to work more from memory, which involves a little bit of imagination. This one is my first painting from memory, entirely from memory, after a trip to France, staying in an oak forest, heavily pregnant, very intense experience. So I was awakened every morning to brilliant green light. So I did a painting that was all about green, none of my usual reds. This is from the garden of my basement flat in Brighton. Looking one way, you see the eucalyptus tree that I planted at the end of the garden. Looking the other way, you see my basement window. I had a massive easel and canvas in the middle of the garden, so I just painted what I saw to my left, what I saw to my right, compiled it into this view. This is inspired, as you can see, self-portrait as a Russian doll. It's actually part of a previous drawing of mine from about 10 or 15 years ago when I first read my grandmother's memoirs about her escape from Russia in the Revolution. And I did a drawing about her journey and my journey and the fact that we would never meet because she died before I was born, using the Russian doll as a symbol for stories within stories.
Would it be fair to say that in the art establishment there is or there has been a prejudice in recent years against painting?
I don't know whether prejudice is the right word, but a sort of anxiety if you are painting. And in fact I stopped painting for 5 years. To me, painting didn't answer the questions that I was asking myself. But 5 years of other exploration and quite a lot of angst brought me back to painting, and the joy was I realised it does. It answers all those questions. So I did a lot of work about myself and about stories and time, and I realised that the process of painting, the process of looking at things and spending time with those things is what it was all about. And suddenly I was sort of home again and I could paint.
Seagulls, seagulls, they're flying. All right, I don't like this stuff, but Bill Smith talks to Albion pundit Dan Tester about football.
So Withdean against the real Manchester United?
Well, some people may well say that, and obviously because we played Manchester United in 1983, there's going to be a lot of talk about that, because obviously FC United are sort of, they market themselves as the real Manchester United, which in essence they are, because they're not all about money, they're about football, which is what...
Yeah, I happen to know you're not the biggest Wayne Rooney fan in the world, so maybe this is a game that you would like to go to then.
To be honest, I'm not the biggest Manchester United fan at all in the world. I can't stand Manchester United for many, many reasons, which I won't bore you with now. Woking, I think, deserve a bit of respect for the fact that we were the highest ranked team in the first round, which is the first time that's happened for about 8 years. Woking came down, set their stall out there, great support from what I've heard, and now we've got to go to their place. We did actually play them in 1993, I think it was, in a first round replay, and we scored in the last minute back then, so it's a good little ground, there'll be a good atmosphere there. But I mean, to be honest, the tie that interests me in the second round is AFC Wimbledon against MK Dons, if it happens, because they've both got replays, but that'll be a hell of a game if that happens.
That's a bit of rivalry there, isn't it?
Just a little bit, yeah. But no, if we do play FC United, I've got a lot of respect for what they've done, because...
Is it the fans that basically got together who were unhappy with Man U and started their own club?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Man U have got, a huge support beyond comprehension, to be honest. It's huge. But if the Albion had gone bust in 1997, which we nearly did, we would have done the same thing. But obviously it didn't happen, so we won't ever know. But I've got a lot of respect for FC United, but obviously I still want to beat them, and I still despise Man United, so it'll be very interesting, but a lot of respect to them for what they're doing. So we'll see. We've got to beat Woking first. We'll see.
Albion pundit Dan Tester, thank you very much.
Cheers, Bill.